It's Fernando Ruiz art.
There we go.
Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. And we are looking at a cover, pinup. Not exactly sure yet, but this is a little sneak preview at my next project, which is for my friend Giselle Legacy's Pixie Tricks comics. And if you guys have followed what I do, and if you've watched previous videos, you may have heard me mention Pixie Tricks before. I've done a number of projects for them now, including drawing a lot of their Eerie Cuties strips, as well as 2 whole issues of Space Captain Miyuki, which is that one. So now I'm drawing an issue of Incredibelle, who is this girl who is flying on the this piece here. And Incredibelle is a spin-off of a current special that Pixie Tricks has available called Nightingale. So if you go to pixietrickscomics.com, you're able to order Nightingale and Space Captain Miyuki and a whole lot of other great Pixie Tricks comics. So check them out, pixietrickscomics.com, and keep following me for more updates and more sneak peeks on Incredibelle. Okay, so that's my big plug, my big commercial. So now we've got Iron Man. Got a picture of Iron Man, and yes, I know this is the retro. I guess they call it retro armor now. This was the armor that Iron Man wore for much of the 70s and much of the 80s, which is when I was reading Iron Man as a kid. So the reason we're looking at Iron Man today is because I want to talk about the texture of metal and adding metallic effects to a figure. And this is something I just recently went over in my classes at the Kubert School. So it's a topic that's pretty fresh in my mind. So I figured let's talk about it tonight, since it's probably something a lot of people are curious about. Now, the thing to remember about metal is like water, like glass, it is a reflective surface, which means it's going to reflect a lot of its environment. Now, the good news about that is we can really fake a lot of that. A lot of that just involves faking it with black streaks, line effects, and well, let's jump in and hopefully you could see what I mean. Now, as you see, normally I will draw the figure of Iron Man as though he were a regular figure. I'm not going to add the metallic effects until I've drawn a figure, because this way, if there's anything wrong with the figure, I could fix it more easily. You know, I don't have to worry about things like proportions, which I talked about in my last video. I hope you caught that. Or anatomy, things like that, or any of the particular Iron Man details. I'll address all of that before I go in and start to fancy him up with the armor, with the metal effects. Now, usually, if you take a look at that spotlight that he usually has in his chest, and in this particular version of Iron Man, it's a circular spotlight. I know sometimes now it's triangular, but if you take a close look at it, you'll know that my ovals, and those are actually ovals, they're fairly precise. And what I did was, after I drew all of the figure, I went in with my ellipse template and I made that, and I tightened that up. And I would actually probably do that for all of the elliptical shapes on Iron Man, like even these little doodads. these pods that he always has on his side. I would probably go in, find an ellipse that more or less matches what I'm going for, and then I would go in and just kind of trace that like that. And the reason I want to do that before I go in with the metal effects is just so that it's nice and precise for me when I do add these metallic effects in there. I didn't go in and do that for everything, so we're going to be faking it. We're going to be cheating a little bit. Okay. Now, another thing to remember is with Iron Man here, he has red parts to him, and he also has yellow parts to him. Normally, his sleeves, his leggings are yellow. His face, of course, is yellow, but much of the body here is all in red. So what that means is those parts are going to be darker. And what I'm going to do to signify the reflectiveness of those parts is really, I'm just going to go in and fake my way with some black streaks. And I got to remember too that this part, this cuff, this shape that he's got, it's going to be cylindrical. So I want this to look rounded. So what I'm going to go in, I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with some thick black streaks that are just running the shape of the cylinder. And now this streak, as it curves down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up into lines, and that makes it look like that streak is fading. This part where it's yellow, this part is also, he's kind of pulling back his arm behind him a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw a little line pattern to kind of gray it out and hide it, you know, as though there were a faint shadow there. So we're not going to see a whole lot. Maybe just here in this little part. What I'm going to do is add a few little swirls, but we'll see yellow metal effects in a bit. This part here of his shoulder, I'm going to go in and again do the same thing, going with a little bit of black, whip my way out of that black, whip my way out, go down here. This lower part is probably catching some shadow in there. It's probably not catching much light. And I'm going to whip my way out of that. Sometimes if a part is particularly shiny, I may go in and cheat a little bit. Go in and break up the outline to really indicate a highlight. Now Iron Man's face, it's yellow, and that means it's going to be lighter. And because it's his face, I really don't want to go in and do much to it. So I'm really just going to fake just a couple of little lines to indicate a little bit of form and a little bit of the metal texture. But I don't want to clutter up his face. So I'm really going to leave a lot of it just bare. I know sometimes I've seen people just do a couple of lines across the face. And even that always ends up looking a little busy to me. The earpiece over here, that piece is red. So I'm going to indicate that. Pretty much what I did before. Add a little black and whip my way out of it. This crow's peak, or widow's peak. Widow's peak, that's what I should call it. Which, of course, this isn't hair. This is more metal. But usually, traditionally, you'd see that really catch a lot of dark. And again, it's metal, so we could really fake our way around. You kind of treat this black as almost like a liquid that just oozes around the shape of his body, the shape of his armor. And that means you could really get away with a lot. You could really fake a lot. This piece under the neck. And two, don't be afraid with what you've done. Go in with your eraser and pick out a few little highlights if you want to make it even more reflective. Now, his chest piece, you know, that you could cover up a lot of it with black. Just cover up a lot of it there, following the anatomy, leaving a few strategic highlights here and there. For example, let's say his iron abs over here. I'm going to darken those up. kind of darkening the underside, almost as though they're just casting a shadow. So notice I'm just kind of feeling my way around this. Doesn't have to be super tight or super precise. The belt is sometimes this striated metal effect, kind of like what we see on his, let's go down to the boots, we'll see it more easily. The striated bands, I'm just gonna hit up with a little bit of black here and there, going down each band. And notice I'm leaving the separation of each band. I'm not doing this as a solid black. And I'm doing some over here to give that foot a little bit of a curve. A little bit more, maybe down as we come to the toe, it's gonna fill out. And if I want to, I could give it a little secondary line. And now this cylindrical part, just like I did before, I'm gonna go in with a large, big black area. And maybe that can break up into a few smaller streaks. Here too. The yellow, I promised to go into the yellow. The yellow, I'm gonna handle pretty much the same way I've been handling the black, but just less of it and more open shapes. So it's not gonna be, I'm really just following some of the anatomy, not super tightly, just going in, kind of doing these swirls of light. Don't overdo it, because let's go over to the arm here. Don't overdo it, because you don't want to scribble him up. But I'm just going to do these swirls just to make it look shiny, look reflective. If you do overdo it, you could always go back in with your eraser and clean that up. This band, more black. And, you know, that's pretty much what you do. A lot of it, like I said, a lot of it is you're faking it. So, that's pretty much Iron Man. We could go in here. He's got these shorts. Really want to adjust the direction of these bands a little bit more before I would darken them in. But I would pretty much treat those like I treated the boots, where I'm just darkening in spots of each band, doing that up the belt as well. Each band. This, of course, is a little bit loose, but I could tighten that up later. All right, so that gives me Iron Man. And he's not done, of course. I could go in, I gotta pull in a few more anatomical details here and there, indicate a little bit more of his collar, a few more muscles here and there, the tops of his muscles, and a few more streaks here and there. But that's basically how I would indicate metal, and I hope that this gives you an idea of how to do it. As usual, if anybody has any questions, anything that I did that you'd like me to elaborate on, please always let me know. Please let me know in the comments below. So that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this. More videos to come. If you enjoyed this, click like. Don't be afraid to share. Don't be shy about sharing. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe and hit that bell so you'll get notified about more videos. All right, thanks a lot, everybody, and I will see you in the next one. Keep drawing. Always keep drawing.